Hey guys, Blood Moon Bobby here. So, what are we talking about today? Ducktales. Woo! I'm not singing the song. I don't consider myself that good of a singer, but so yeah, Disney XD has rebooted Ducktales. In case you don't know, or if you can't guess from the image you see on the screen, or if you can't see it if your phone's in your pocket, DuckTales is the adventures of, Huey, Dewey, Louie, and their great uncle, Scrooge McDuck. They go on adventures, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a catchy theme song. They've also got a supporting cast of other colorful characters, including Donald Duck, of course. And truth be told, this may be one of the few reviews of this show where it's not done by somebody who's seen the original DuckTales. I mean, I've seen it. My sister is very into the original DuckTales. I've seen the first two episodes, so I can get a good feel of how it compares to this reboot. And but yeah, never seen it as a kid. I literally only heard about DuckTales from the Nostalgia Critic. He brought that up as number one on his top 11 list of catchiest theme songs. And of course, now it's stuck in my head too. So yeah, it will never leave. It will never leave. And yeah, which, that's a good or a bad thing. I guess that's up to you to figure out. So, DuckTales, what do I think of these first two episodes? I like them. I like the first two episodes just fine. I don't know if I'm super engrossed like I am with Disney XD's other shows like Gravity Falls or Star vs. the Force of Evil. This is more of the kind of I could compare to my take on superhero movies. For instance, when I went to go see Wonder Woman, and everybody was hyped, for that movie. But when I got to that theater, I was just I liked it, but I'm not a super fan. It's kind of same thing with Star Wars for me, where it's everyone loves it, and I'm I like it, but for me, I guess it makes me a better critic if I can like it just as is. So yes. So what do I like about the show? I mean, it's a very entertaining show. Huey, Dewey, and Louie in this version are definitely very entertaining guys. One of my favorite jokes from the first episode actually is when we're introduced to the the triplets they're triplets, I think so, on Donald Duck's boat. Donald thinks that he could just leave Huey and Louie by themselves, but then the ship starts going, and Donald, I'm gonna do a really bad Donald Duck impression, he's like, "Where's Huey?" And yeah, so I thought that was a pretty funny line, and there's also plenty of other ones. What else do I like about the show? I'll get into how Huey, Dewey, and Louie are different in this reboot in a second. Scrooge is also a very likable guy. You could see, even though, yeah, he's kind of a bit of a scoundrel, and he literally says initially that he thinks that family is a waste of time, and he doesn't, he said that in his past he didn't always need help, even though he kind of, he had Donald Duck with him. But, he's a likable kind of, scoundrel, I guess you can call him. Who else is good? Webby. Some might say that they made Webby more of a not tougher, but kind of a more feisty character, whereas in the original, which I'll get into that. I guess I should be judging Webby as is. She's definitely a lot of fun. She's kind of the kind of character where it's kind of she's got that mix of being super peppy, but also being super adventurous. I guess it's kind of like Star Butterfly in that way. But yeah, I definitely liked her pretty much from the second she came on screen. And the first legit villain they showed us in the second episode was Glumgold. I believe his whole name was, hold on, let me look that up on my computer's number. Flint? Forgive me, I'm kind of Flintard Glumgold, although they've, I think everybody, just calls him Glumgold. Like, he's definitely, a lot of fun. Like, he's obviously Scrooge's rival, but, he's a definitely a great villain, very, like, bombastic, claiming to be more Scottish than Scrooge McDuck. And just, so, I mean, overall, this reboot has a really good cast. Now, as far as how it differs from the original, like, I first just have to say, as a reboot goes, it's funny, how in this day and age of the animation renaissance that began with Adventure Time, that we haven't gotten too many really good reboots. We've gotten some really good original shows, but reboots, at least on the top of my head, not so much. I don't know, maybe I'm just because, when I think reboots of the 2010s, my mind just goes straight to Teen Titans Go and, the Powerpuff Girls, which are both, like, car crashes in terms of quality of reboots. But the thing about Ducktales is, it's not like how should I put this? It's not, the first two episodes are definitely not like remakes of the original, but it's kind of like, the animators and the writers were thinking, where can we go as far, it's like, and I'm glad they did that. They didn't just, remake it. I feel like they were thinking, how can we, they were just thinking of like putting them in a good adventure, but also making a good introduction. So, I mean, and it's weird. Obviously, one of the big differences is Huey, Dewey, and Louie. They don't talk in, the Donald Duck, that really scratchy voice that's kind of hard to understand. And, I'm a guy who, can usually go around like people who, like, a lot of people may have a tough time understanding him. I usually can get away. I'll admit, even like Donald, like, I could, like, I know what he's saying, but there are times where, like, his scratching, I don't quite get what he's saying. And, they even kind of make fun of that in the reboot. I forgot what the exact joke was, but I remember Louis, like, kind of confuses something that Donald says. And but that's, I feel that because Huey, Dewey, and Louie are they're able to kind of talk in a how do I say this while being politically, in a like understandable tone, like they have a more like normal-ish like tone of voice, like kind of like the way like I'm talking, as far as it's not scratchy, it's more like this. You get what I'm saying? And I feel that's not just going to connect with the kids more, but I also feel like people who watch the reboot, who they should be able to get into it. See what else, and like I said, the story of the first two episodes are different. I kind of feel in this day and age of we live in the day and age of the Adventure Times, the Star versus the Forces of Evil, the Gravity Falls, where they're trying to put a lot more meat on shows nowadays, where it's not just, ooh, it's fun. And when I watched the first two episodes, they didn't Scrooge and the three brothers, they didn't instantly get along, but I kind of feel there's more of a heart to this, there's more of an arc as far as the nephew's trying to connect with Scrooge, which, I'm not criticizing for the original. Like, the original, it did good for what it is, but, for this, it's just part of, making a cartoon in this day and age, / looking for a new way to tell this story. So, I gotta say, when people use that argument of, you can't change one word, whether it's, adapting a book to the silver screen, or, adapting a, TV show from the past to something more modern, honestly, if it, is able to gel well, if you're going to do a reboot and you want to go in a different direction, if it's able to gel well and serve its purpose, then, it should still be good. you know, and I kind of feel that's where the DuckTales reboot is doing a good job so far. Let's see, what else can I talk about? Like the changes, I mean, in the original, it was, going to Scrooge's candy factory, and I feel like in the original series they got through the introductions much quicker. Like, you can tell it's a very introductory episode as far as, the triplets meeting with Scrooge, and they don't get along and they want to go on with him, whereas in this one, at least for the first couple of episodes, they're spending a bit more time developing the characters, or I should say, they spend more time with the characters getting used to this new life. Because in the original series, the next episode was, wrong way to wrong way. And it just felt like, they just went straight into adventure. Whereas, in the second episode of the reboot, they go into how Huey in particular is trying to he's kind of skeptical of Scrooge. Like I said before, Scrooge said that family was a waste of time, and Scrooge doesn't even know Huey's name. At one point, Scrooge calls him Bluey, so, and yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of, part of modernizing it, but I kind of, like that. What else can I say? Well, and I mean, other changes for might as well I'll just briefly mention they've changed Glumgold's design, now that they made him into kind of a more, I don't want to use the word fatter, but well, I guess, sort of a fatter kind of duck, but I kind of feel that it kind of goes with his personality. Not that everybody, that, is like that, but, you've got this really bombastic, kind of guy, and, he's, nice, so I think that just gels well. The art style of the series, I'm kind of surprised. It's not as colorful a show as Disney XD's other shows, because if you look at something like Gravity Falls, it has a lot of richness to its backgrounds and such. And same thing, look at Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Wander Over Yonder, and even Pickle and Peanut, which that's a horrible cartoon, but whereas this reboot, its art style, it definitely has colorful moments, when they go to Atlantis in the second episode, and when in the intro, of course, but something about when they're home in Duckburg, it's kind of a little too I don't know about desaturated, but something about it just feels a little flatter compared to Disney XD's other shows. I mean, again, not every of course, not every show needs to be colorful, needs a colorful color palette. It needs to its color palette needs to be more appropriate for what the show is, rather than just following what the other shows are doing. But it's kind of interesting to know. I will say though, the character designs, it kind of took me a little while to get me warmed up to. I mean, guys like Scrooge, Donald, Glumgold, and Mrs. Beakley, who is Scrooge's servant, they look fine, they look really good, but the Huey, Dewey, and Louie, I kind of felt it was a little weird, how they kind of have marshmallow-ish shaped heads, you could look at Huey and not Huey, Dewey and Louie in particular. I don't know, their heads look kind of square-ish, which it's kind of strange. I mean, not even kind of. I'm making it sound like it bothers me more than it really does. It doesn't, but it's kind of something to kind of point out, I guess. But Yeah, I mean, as far as an art style goes, I do like this show. I mean, I could see, these days, there's people out there that, complain about things like, oh, animated shows nowadays all look too similar. Everything looks simplistic, everything looks colorful. And DuckTales doesn't, deviate from that too much. So, I'm sure there's gonna still be like critics of, that style. But honestly, let's just say I've seen bigger culprits. I mean, I'm not gonna say what I'm talking about, just for the sake of not pissing, people off. But yeah, I mean, but art style wise, the DuckTales reboot is pretty good. Cast, let me actually go check that out. I mean, I know Scrooge is played by the very expressive and at times acting kind of strange David Tennant, and his voice like gels pretty well with Scrooge. It's kind of funny how because David Tennant's this kind of a younger guy, but of course, kind of like Alex Hirsch in Gravity Falls. If you're able to kind of wrap up your voice, then you could pretty much and if you're a good actor, then you can convince. Let me actually go check out the cast, because I know a couple of the actors on the DuckTales reboot are from SNL, like Bobby Monahan, who you might know for playing Ted Cruz and a Trump supporter once on the show. Let me actually check it out. Excuse me if you're hearing my trackpad click. Let's see. Yeah, Bobby Monahan plays Louie, Ben Schwartz is Dewey Duck, and Danny Booty is Huey Duck. Oh, wait, I see what they mean. Yeah, so Bobby Monahan plays Louie Duck, Beck Bennett plays Launchpad McQuack, and you want to know who Beck Bennett played on SNL? Vladimir Putin, which, yes, I'm aware, I'm just joking around. I know, just because you played Vladimir Putin on SNL doesn't mean you can play a kid-friendly character. And they do a pretty good job. Actually, all these actors do a pretty good job on this. Just kind of joking around. So. Yeah, but I will say, some might say the three Huey, Dewey, and Louie's voice actors sound a bit too old. Like, I do get why a lot of shows want to use like grown actors even with kid characters, because when you have kid actors, they sound more authentic, but a lot of the time, unless they're a really good child actor, they don't tend to, you could tell they don't have that kind of experience. Whereas, if you have a grown actor, a good, adult voice actor can voice a kid character. I mean, I'm not gonna get into we've seen that time and time again on Disney XD's shows, and they're able to do it successfully. It's not like when you hear Dipper or Marco or Star or Mabel, it's like you're thinking, that sounds kind of like an adult. You're still able to buy them as kids in their early teens, or in the case of the Pine Twins, they're 12-year-olds. And in this reboot, I'm not as sure, because I like the acting, but you can kind of tell that these guys are adults. I guess I just associate. I think for the two shows I mentioned, when in Gravity Falls and Star vs. the Forces of Evil, the kids, they're in their early teens. The Star Marco are 14. Dipper and Mabel they start off at 12, but they turn 13. So when you're in your teens, your voice starts to change into that of an adult. So when you have an adult voice like a 12 or 14-year-old, it's more convincing. In the case of DuckTales, I guess because I associate Huey, Dewey, and Louie as kids, the voices sound a little jarring. I don't know, it's not every time a word comes out of their mouth it's oh wow, you sound kind of old, but Yeah, that's something to kind of again point out. I mean, I think as you can see, me talking about this series, even like when there's flaws, it's not, anything damaging per se. It's kind of more things that just stick out a little. Like, I don't know about using the phrase "it sticks out like a sore thumb." I think it's just more of when you have, a pretty good show like this, little things are just like this, just kind of are like, ooh, okay. But yeah, is there anything more I can talk about? I feel like I've covered my bases quite a bit with the Ducktales reboot. So again, it's a pretty good show. I will say though, I'm not gonna end it here. I will say, as far as Disney XD airing it, I really wish they'd air. They'd come out with the series when they had more episodes, because I feel like right now they just have the first two episodes of the reboot. I mean, again, like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to compare DuckTales to the other Disney XD shows, but, with something like going back to like for Battle for Muni, that one kind of made sense to air in the summer because, they pretty much said it's the first 8 episodes of season 3. And while I do really like the first 2 episodes of the DuckTales reboot, and I think that was the only thing they showed during that, 24-hour premiere, but I really wish they came out with more episodes. I mean, especially, like, I'm not going to spoil what happens in the end of the second episode of the reboot, but it's like, that's such a cliffhanger, and honestly, yes, that's, one of the biggest compliments you can give to any kind of art is when you ask the question of what happens next. So, it's a good cliffhanger, but it's like, it's 2 episodes. Come on, you could have given us some more, I guess I'm like, so, but I guess that's kind of a testament to the series. I kind of also felt what they could have done is maybe had maybe a DuckTales TV movie. It's kind of like what they did with Tangled Before Ever After on Disney Channel. It's like, you could do it. DuckTales is a big enough franchise that you could put some money into doing like an introductory TV movie. As is the first 2, not to say that the first 2 episodes don't introduce the series properly as, the first 2 episodes, but, if you're gonna go all out and really, advertise this, do something big, so, do something that would make it worth, a 24-hour, kind of marathon. And like I said, I want to know what happens next. For all we know, they could address what happens at the end of the second episode, maybe later in the season. So, you could have had some time to put a few more adventures together. I'm just saying this because, if you look at Disney XD's advertising for DuckTales, they put in, they're advertising a lot. They're even advertising from, I'm assuming, episodes that haven't aired yet. Webby, looking for the cookie, or Huey looking for, not looking for, but Huey's building a tent. Those aren't in the first 2 episodes, and they build it up oh yes, those episodes are coming soon. So, so, I kind of feel like I've went off on that a lot longer than I really should have. So, overall, the DuckTales reboot, so far, the first 2 episodes are pretty promising. It's probably, I know for a lot of fans, it's gonna, be a nostalgia trip, and, good for them, what better way, like not only for those fans, not only do they get a good show, but it's kind of a trip back to their childhoods. I mean, I even saw today under the Ducktales theme song on the Disney XD YouTube channel, one of the comments said it brought tears to his or her eyes. I mean, I think that's amazing, and I could totally understand that. So, and they should be glad that, unlike the Cartoon Network reboots, this is a reboot done right, It's kind of funny, like, I'm gonna try to keep it short. It's funny how, like, people use the argument of, oh, it's a kid's show, why are you crying so much? But then you have, in the case of the DuckTales reboot, here's a reboot where the people making it, and Disney of all companies were just saying, we know we have, like, fans of the original, we're gonna respect them while also bringing this to a new audience. And, of course, this reboot does that successfully. So, I went on about the DuckTales reboot about as much as I can. So overall, if you haven't seen the first 2 episodes, go check them out. There, you can actually watch them for free on the Disney XD YouTube channel. And but honestly, even if you were to whether buy them off, Amazon or watch them on the Disney XD app, if you have a subscription, I think it's definitely like worth the price. So maybe just this once, you may want to actually take out your wallet to watch a TV episode. So, all right, guys, please let me know if you like this radio format. Please like and subscribe to Blood Moon Bobby. All right, so thanks for watching or listening, and please like and subscribe to Blood Moon Bobby. Thanks for watching.